For the water portion, yeah. Well, thanks, Francis, and to the foundation for having me. It's an honor to be here. Yeah, my goal is to give you some context around how water data centers use water, and hopefully at the end of it you realize these guys are really the problem, but we're fine in the tech world. So Amazon Web Services, most people, when they think of Amazon, they think of buying stuff online, but there's actually a large part of the business, which is the cloud service provider. Amazon Web Services is the largest, most mature, most widely adopted cloud service platform. And that's built on an infrastructure of data centers around the world. We have several dozen major regions around the world where we have built large data centers that support the cloud services that we offer. And so this may seem like really basic intro material, but just to make sure we're on the same page about why we use water. Basically, the servers in those data centers get hot and we have to cool them somehow. And so there are a couple different ways that you can do that. You can basically install and turn on the air conditioner. That's one way that actually doesn't use any water, but we really see that water energy nexus here in action, because if you do that, if you turn on the air conditioner, you end up using a lot more energy. On the other hand, if you use water for cooling, you can save a ton of energy and use some water, and what we have to do is make sure that we're using water in a sustainable way for cooling. So I'm going to go through the 3 easy steps to being a water-efficient data center operator. And the first really is about the technology that you use. So water-based cooling, there's a big range in water use depending on what type of system you use. There's the traditional kind of cooling tower type of system that uses water every day, all the time, to cool those data centers. And they can use quite a bit of water. We, for the most part, and almost all of our data centers that we're building now, use a direct evaporative design that brings in, when it's cool enough, brings in outside air to cool the data center, only switches on that water-based cooling system when it's absolutely necessary. And in parts of Northern Europe especially, we're only really flipping that water-based cooling system on about 5% of the time. And so we have a really water-efficient design. It ends up using the equivalent of maybe a few dozen households in a given year. So it's not these massive numbers that you sometimes see in the headlines. The metric that we use around water efficiency is the liters of water per kilowatt hour of energy consumed in a data center. And within Amazon Web Services, or AWS, globally our average is about 0.19 liters per kilowatt hour. That's less than a cup of water for every kilowatt hour of energy consumed in a data center. And that's compared to an industry-wide average of about 1.8 liters per kilowatt hour. So 0.19 to 1.8. There's a huge range in that efficiency, and it really fundamentally comes down to the technology that you're using for cooling. So that's a really important decision, and one that in virtually all of our data centers that where we're using water-based cooling, we're using that more efficient design. The second part that's really important is deciding, it's about the geography and where you're using water for cooling. So while we're working to manage energy and water together through this direct evaporative design that produces a really low energy use and a very low water use, there are certain places where you say, you know what, even if that's a very water efficient solution, it's still not the right decision for us to use water to cool a data center here. Cape Town, South Africa, lots of parts of India. There we say, you know what, even though it would help save money, help save energy, there's just too much, the scarcity is too great in that community. It's not the right decision for us as a company or for that community to use any amount of water for cooling a data center. So that geographic decision is a really important one, looking at the risk of that specific community. And so it's not an all or nothing. It's not we use water to cool or we use air to cool. It's saying we're going to use water because it helps us meet our other sustainability goals like net zero carbon and 100% renewable energy goals that AWS has. We're going to use that wherever possible, but we're going to make an allowance and say in certain places it's still not the responsible thing to do, so we're not going to use water for cooling. And so the last step after those first two is really setting targets around water sustainability. And a growing number of companies, including AWS, have taken what we call water positive goals, which means we're aiming to return more water to the community than we use in our operations. In 2019, there were 3 companies. Coca-Cola was the first company probably to set one of these goals back in the early 2000s. But as of 2019, there were still only 3 Fortune 500 companies that had set a water positive goal. Now there's about 30 of them. So still on the smaller side, but growing rapidly. And the way that we at AWS are meeting our goal, there's 4 strategies. One, it's all about efficiency, as I mentioned already. We've got a very water efficient design. We're also using cloud services to monitor water use within our data centers, eliminate any leaks, so that we're continuing to drive down our water use, improve our efficiency over time. We're also switching to sustainable sources of water. We consider that recycled water and rainwater harvesting wherever possible, so we can use that cleaner, potable water, or leave that for the community for drinking water, those needs where you really have to have the cleanest water. We're also reusing that cooling water as much as possible, so we cycle it through our cooling systems. At a certain point, we need to bring in fresh water, but wherever possible, we're sending that cooling water to farmers for use in irrigation directly. So we're not sending it to a treatment plant in some places. It directly goes to another productive use. So let's get the most use out of every drop of water that we withdraw. And then finally, we're investing in replenishment projects around the world in the communities where we operate data centers in order to help support water availability, water quality, and water access. And those projects vary a lot depending on what the need of that given watershed is. So in India and Indonesia, we've done a lot of work with Water.org and WaterAid and some other groups to help expand water access where that's a challenge. In other places, in California and in Cape Town, we're doing groundwater recharge projects. We're helping to remove invasive species that absorb water so that we can improve the overall the quantity of water available to that community. And then in other places, we're focused on water quality, and we're helping to build wetlands that can naturally treat runoff from farm fields, from developed parts of the urban environment, so that we're really helping to respond to whatever those key challenges are. In Spain, we've done a few projects. We have a region of data centers out in Zaragoza between Madrid and Barcelona. We are, as I said, we're starting with that very water efficient design. We're looking for ways to expand the use of recycled water in those areas, and we're also investing in some of these replenishment projects. One of those projects was working with a town where we operate. We actually provided them, I mentioned this in my comments right before the break, we provided them with a cloud-based technology that allowed them to see exactly where in their water network they were losing water, so that they can figure out how to go fix those pipes. No water utility has enough money to go fix every problem in their system. So having better information about which pipes you need to dig up and being smarter about the dollars that you do have available is really important. And if we can help bring some of those technologies to the table to help water utilities reduce that leakage, it's a real benefit because they have more water available to supply to the residents of that community. So we're looking to expand that type of project. We're also working with farmers in that area. It's an agricultural area. One project I'm actually going to see for the first time on Friday, we are helping to build a pipeline that's bringing farm runoff from farm fields that has a lot of nutrients in it. Currently, it's been going into the Ebro River. Instead, we're taking that water and delivering it to other fields, where by using that for irrigation, they can actually benefit from the nutrients that are already in that water. So there's less polluted water going to the river, less nutrients, fewer nutrients being applied to other fields downstream, so that we're both improving the quality and the quantity of water available. So that's the type of projects that we're supporting around the world. And really the goal there, again, is at the end of the day, we want to be having a net positive impact on water resources wherever we're operating. And the last thing I'll say is I think there's an opportunity, this isn't just about kind of checking a box to meet a goal here, right? And being able to pat ourselves on the back and say, we're water positive, good job. It's about finding ways to maximize the impact of every dollar that we're investing through this program. So, finding the technology that's going to help really drive innovation across the water sector, helping to prove those out, helping to raise up those technologies that can hopefully drive adoption beyond just the projects that we're supporting in this program. That's one of the goals. Similarly with innovative business models or financing models, if I can find a way to leverage additional capital through the dollars that I'm investing so that we're having a broader effect and a greater impact with every dollar that we're investing, also looking for those opportunities. And then one of the last pieces of innovation and I think ways that we can maximize the impact is to find ways to align the strategy and the replenishment investments we're making with what governments are trying to do in terms of expanding water supply, building resilience within water systems. One of the key things that we're really integrating into the program is recycled water and finding ways that we can co-invest in building recycled water infrastructure with water utilities. Can we drive more private sector dollars to go to recycled water? Because those are really resilient water systems that keep supplying water even in times of drought. So we're looking for ways we can align our investments with those of governments in the area so that hopefully overall we're really helping to do the most good we can to build resilient water supplies. So just to sum up, geography and the water technology and setting goals that help bring more water back to the communities, those are ways that I think data centers and the tech industry in general can actually hopefully be having a positive impact on water resources.
Yeah.